Hello, this is Darin again, back with the second part of the Guns of Icarus Online introduction. So, previous video I went over all the classes and the different skills that you can do. So now I'm going to go over the different ships. There are 6 different ships. They have different levels of the ship health. As you can see right here, when you have a certain ships collected, it will give you all the stats for it. A bunch of these, it goes very detailed into the balloon profile, the hull profile, and all of this different stuff to how big the ship is and all this different stuff. The 3 main ones will probably be the ship health. That's the total ship health, I'm pretty sure. The hull health, which is the hull of the ship, which once your hull is completely gone, the ship explodes and you're dead. The balloon health is really important because when an enemy destroys your balloon, it doesn't actually destroy the ship, but you obviously no longer have a balloon, so the ships stop falling, and you can crash into the ground, and you take a ton of damage to your hull if you crash into the ground. So keeping your balloon up is very important. So, and especially if an enemy takes out your balloon, they can just be right on top of you, just shooting down at you, and there's not really anything you can do. So the balloon is very important, but again, the hull is what determines whether you die or not, essentially. So in one sense the hull is the most important thing, but if you lose your balloon, there's a good chance that you're going to lose your hull as well if you get stuck in that situation. You also have acceleration speed, radial acceleration, which is your turn speed, and vertical acceleration, which is obviously going up or down, or I guess vertical would actually up or down. Max speed, obvious, max turn speed, and max vertical speed. I think this may be the max speed in conjunction with some of the pilot skills, and same for all these, because there are pilot skills that allow you to just go straight up, go faster, make you turn faster, and make you either drop or fall, descend or ascend faster. So I think these max speed, I'm not sure about this, but I think these max speeds might be the highest you can go, even using captain skills. But I could be wrong. The captain skills may increase it. I'm not sure. Then you have the mass of the ship, and then the hull profile, which is basically how big the hull is and how big the balloon is. So this first one right here is default name is the Pyramidion or Pyramidium. I've heard people say it different ways. Not sure. And then another cool feature about Guns of Icarus Online is that you can name your ship. Now this is the job of the captain, obviously, because when you get into a match, which you'll see probably next video, is the captain is the one who picks what ship they're going to use, and he's also the one who customizes the ship and gets to obviously name the ship. So I think that's really cool, feature, being able to name ships, adds a really cool, customization to it, and also especially for clans, for like us, Defenders of Faith, which we're actually going to be called Defenders Air Fleet. I think I forgot to mention that last video. But we're going to have kind of a themed name of, we're kind of like Crusader, Latin. We use a lot of Latin names and stuff for our stuff. So we're probably going to see the one ship I've been using the most is named Fidelis, which is Latin for faith. So it's just really cool being able to name your ship whatever you want. I've been in matches and I've seen a bunch of really cool ship names. I've seen Queen Anne's Revenge, the Victory, the HMS Victory, the USS something, I don't remember, but just tons of historical references to real ships and everything. So it's just really, really cool. Oh, I've seen the Enterprise, which was a pretty fun one. But and then you will just see completely crazy names. But on to the Pyramidium. The Pyramidium, as you can probably guess, it has a spike at the front of its hull, and as you can see, the blimp carriage, or I guess that's what it's called, is kind of pointy as well. So the Pyramidium is specifically designed for ramming. That is its job, and it's really good at it. So the Pyramidium is an interesting ship. I've only used it a couple times in actual matches, but I've practiced with it, which I'll get more into that later on about the different modes. But so I don't know. I'm kind of still up in the air about it. It's really cool, and it can be very, very effective, but it also can be kind of, well, I guess this really goes for all the ships. They're good at certain things, but they're bad at certain things, and depending on how the skill of the pilot and the crew, one ship can be really good and, you know, almost seem overpowered, but that same ship with a not as good crew will just get completely destroyed. So I think that's really cool how they've managed to balance it, where there's not really kind of the best ship from what I've seen so far, and there's not really like the best loadout as of yet. There are certainly specifically for certain ships, there are certain loadouts that are better, which I'll get into loadouts here in a minute. For the Pyramidium, for example, I've got 2 carronades up front, and then a flamethrower and a Gatling gun on the left side. I'll get more into the weapons here in a bit, but so there's certain loadouts that just the positioning of the weapon, and depending on what the ship is designed to do. For like this one, it's designed to ram, so you're gonna be real close to the enemy, so they can be really effective to have a bunch of close range weapons on the ship, which is what this loadout is right here. Basically, all the different loadouts and customization that you can do is the weapons. That's pretty much all you can change. Actually, that is all you can change. So the weapons, there are a bunch of different weapons, which I'll be getting into later, but basically it's the different loadouts, and there's different spots on the ship that are weapon mounts, and you can change what weapons are in there. And there are 2 types of weapon mounts. There are just regular weapon mounts, and then there are heavy weapon mounts. The Pyramidium doesn't have any heavy weapon mounts. It's just got the regular ones. But it's really interesting. You kind of can't tell by the blueprints, but on some of the ships, but once you get in game, you'll kind of really start to see where the different guns are. Like these 2 are actually up on like a catwalk area. The 2 front ones are kind of up on a catwalk area. You know, so it's just certain ships, the layout of certain ships make it harder for engineers and sometimes captains and gunners, depending on, you know, how many guns do you have on the ship, where the blind spots are, how big of the ship is, like the actual physical size, like how far away the components are, how fast the engineers can get from, say, the engines to the hull, you know, because when you're really close, when you're right up on an enemy ship and you're just exchanging a ton of fire, you're going to be taking tons of damage to all your different systems. So it's really important to, you know, be able to make sure all of your crew knows where all the different parts are on a ship. That's a major help and can be, you know, win or die in a lot of situations. So that's the Pyramidium. Next one is the Galleon, and as you can see, it's got more hull health, more balloon health. I believe the balloon health is the same, yes, but it's got almost twice as much hull health as the Pyramidium. The Galleon is the heavy ship. It is has the big guns. It's just a really heavy, kind of like your ship of the line warship, man of war style ship. The one bad thing about this kind of is that it is slower. It is also harder to maneuver. It's got a slower turn radius than a lot of the smaller ships, but it can just pack a ton of firepower because, as I was saying with the Pyramidium, it only has regular weapon slots, where, well, the Galleon has heavy weapon slots, but it actually has 4 heavy weapon slots, and they are underneath, kind of in like the typical gun deck area of the ship, and it's got 4 of them. It's got two on each side, and it's basically, like I said, your typical ship of the line. You're going to be wanting to keep your enemies on one side or the other of you. You've got, you know, tons of just firepower you can dish out. You know, broadsides are insanely effective and everything. Other 2 weapon mounts are that it's got it's got the two normal weapon mounts. It's got one on the left side on the top deck, and then it's got on the back part behind the helm, it's got another one behind it. So, and that's pretty much the Galleon in a nutshell. I've used the Galleon quite a little bit, and it's a really fun ship, especially if you have a crew that you know all the people on, and if you can just line up shots to like left side or right side of the ship, you can just unload an insane amount of damage onto an enemy, especially if you're kind of close range. That's one thing that's cool about the Galleon, is that it can be a good close range ship or it can be a good long range ship. It's, you know, unlike the Pyramidium, where the Pyramidium could be long ranged, I guess. There's not really any restrictions, but the Pyramidium is a ramming ship, and it can do a lot of damage ramming, so it's kind of more designed to be up and close. And as where the Galleon is one of the ships where it's very versatile, it can go either or. It's very strong, it's a tough ship, it's going to take a lot of damage and stuff, so it's really kind of your typical, like I've said for the 3rd time now, it's basically like a man of war, the ship of the line. So that's pretty much all I have to say on it. The next ship is getting a little bit of lag. Okay, the Squid. Personally, I really do not like the Squid. I've seen it be very effective, but just for me, I personally do not like it. I just realized also I forgot to tell where the helm is on all of these, but On the Pyramidium, the helm is at the very front of the ship, which makes sense since you were designed to ram, so the pilot needs to be at the front of the ship to tell when you're going to impact, if you need to be higher or lower. On the Galleon, the helm is on the poop deck, your typical where helms were traditionally on ships that use sails historically and everything. So that's where it is, it's your typical positioning. The Squid is a very interesting ship. It's got a very interesting layout. It's a very fast ship. It's a very nimble ship. It's very, like I said, it's very fast, maneuverable, and can be very effective if you get close up on somebody, with some close range weapons. Or it can also be like a long range ship, and it can just outrun a ton of ships. And it can also be a kind of medium range. So it's very versatile. The helm on this ship is on the, if you can see on the blueprint, on the bottom, what looks like a balloon. There are 2 of these on either side, and the helm is at the front of the left balloon. So it's kind of a weird angle because the helm is on the left side of the ship, as we're on I'm pretty sure all the other ships have the helm in the center of the ship, middle-wise. Maybe not, back and forwards, but as far as left to right, it's in the center, as where the Squid has the helm on the left side. So that makes it kind of tricky to maneuver, and the captain and the pilot has a lot of blind spots where they can't really see. The Squid, though, has just 4 regular weapon mounts, and like I said, it's very versatile. I've seen it do really well, but I've also seen them just get demolished, so I'm not really sure about this ship. Personally, I don't like it, but I've seen it be used effectively, so, and I think that can go for pretty much all the ships. And here is my personal favorite as a pilot, the Junker. This is the one that I've used the most. I just find it a ton of fun. This is kind of a medium ship. It actually has a relatively weak hull, but it is it's a very effective fire platform. Unlike the Galleon, which is slower and harder to maneuver, the Junker is quite a bit faster and is quite a bit easier to maneuver, but it's significantly weaker. So unlike the Galleon that can take a lot of damage, the Junker can't take as much, but the Junker almost has as much firepower as the Galleon. The biggest reason that it can't match firepower with the Galleon is just because the Galleon has 4 heavy weapon slots on it. The Junker has no heavy weapon slots, but it does have the highest number of slots of all the ships, not counting the Galleon. It's got 5 weapon slots. It's got 2 on the bottom deck and 1 on the right, 1 on the left, and then it's got 1 on the right and 1 on the left on the top deck, and then it has a front gun on the ship's nose. So I've used this, like I said, I've used this one the most. I find it a lot of fun as a pilot. It's probably just all around my favorite ship. It's been very effective, and I've been able to, with a good crew, be able to do really well. But then again, we've just gotten completely destroyed. Again, it was actually the same crew. The crew. It was, like I said, we had a good crew and everything. But there are definitely certain weaknesses to the Junker. But there are certain weaknesses to all the ships, and that just kind of goes without saying. It's a very good, I think, Muse game. The developer has done a really good job in balancing all the ships. But yeah, not really much more I can say about the Junker. Oh, the helm is at the back of the ship. Again, it's in the middle. From left and right, it's on the center. It's part of the ship, and it's really cool. But it's at the back, and I think the positioning is very similar to the Galleon. And in fact, the Junker and the Galleon are a lot alike. Primary difference, besides that the Galleon has bigger weapons and a stronger hull, is that the Junker has a weapon on its front, as where the Galleon has a weapon on its back. But besides that, they both have equal number, or not equal, but they both have several guns on left and right. So it's designed. This one is like a weaker version of the Galleon in a lot of ways, but it's designed to be very much of a kind of broadside ship. As far as what I found the most effective is probably a medium range. The problem with having a loadout that forces you to be close in using a bunch of close range weapons is that the Junker has a very weak hull. So if you get up against a ship that has a bunch of really close range weapons like harpoons, flamethrowers, carronades that take out your blimp, a bunch of really close range weapons, you will just get demolished very quickly. The Junker also I've had trouble in the past with dealing against Pyramidiums, against good pure mediums that were well crewed, because they knew their ship really well, and they would just they'd get to you really fast, and they'd just ram you, and there's not really much you could do about it. But then again, I've been trying some different weapon loadouts, and I've had a lot of success. So again, I found that pretty much all the ships are balanced. I don't think there's any one clear winner or anything. But okay, moving on to the next ship is the Goldfish. I believe this is the fastest ship. At least from what I've seen of it in game, it seems like it's the fastest. It may not be, but I'm pretty sure it is. It has the most engines. It's kind of really long and got a kind of aerodynamic look to it and everything. So I'm pretty sure this is the fastest ship. It's got a stronger hull than the Junker and everything, but I don't know. I haven't used the Goldfish a whole lot. I have used it some, and I did enjoy as a pilot. I did enjoy it. One of the cool things about it is one of the downsides is it only has 3 weapons, but the cool side is its front-mounted weapon is a heavy weapon. It's got a heavy weapon slot on its front, and then it's got 2 just regular weapon slots on its left and right, 1 on each side. So it's only got 3 guns, as where a ship like the Junker has way more weapon slots. And another thing that's good about having more weapon slots and bad about having fewer is it's not so much how much damage you can put out, because it's really hard. I mean, there's only 4 players per ship, so one of them's going to be the pilot at the helm, and then at most you could have on manning guns at any time are 3 players. So, but the problem with that is that usually you're going to have a dedicated engineer who's just going to be running around repairing stuff, because when you're close enough to the enemy to fight them, they're going to also probably be close enough to fight you. I mean, to shoot you. So you're going to be taking damage, not just dishing it out. So there's very rarely where you're going to have the three crew guys all on weapons at one time. I have seen it happen a couple times, but for the most part, one of them is going to be repairing stuff pretty much nonstop. So at most, typically you're always going to have 1 guy on a gun, but you can also very easily have 2 guys manning weapons. So really, having less weapons isn't a bad thing from that standpoint, but the one thing where it does hurt you is since you have less weapon slots, where you obviously are going to have the potential to have more blind spots. And by blind spots, I mean places where the enemy ship can get in, a blind spot where they can get in and you can't shoot them. So, like, for the Goldfish, it's behind. If you get behind a Goldfish, they don't have any guns on the back. The guns on the sides only turn so far, so they can't really hit you, and they have to turn. So I mean, it is a good pilot will be able to keep you out of their blind spot pretty effectively, but the blind spots are there, and they can cause you trouble, especially against certain ships. So the Goldfish, like I said, I've used it. I enjoyed it. I don't know. I don't really have much more to say about it. It's a solid ship. I like it more than the Squid. Probably not as much as the Junker, but it'd be probably a close toss-up. I'd have to use the Goldfish some more. Okay, so the next ship is the Spire. The Spire is the 6th ship that was only introduced since the official launch. All 5 other ships were in the beta, or at least I was in the beta about the last month, so they already were all in the beta, and the Spire was only introduced either like at the very end of beta maybe, but I'm pretty sure it was actually released on the official launch of the game, so it wasn't really in the beta that much. And so it's a relatively new ship, and I've seen a lot of people using it, probably just because it is new and they want to get a feel for it and see what its strengths and weaknesses are. But so the Spire is an interesting ship because, unlike all the other ships, it's vertical. It's designed to be very vertical instead of horizontal, as you can obviously tell. One of the challenges I've seen of the Spire is that most ships have 2 decks, and some of the ships have 3 decks. And it's not really decks, but it's basically like 3 levels to the ship. And usually you'll have key components, meaning engines, balloon control, the hull control, the helm. Actually, the helm doesn't. Well, the helm is important, but the helm can't take damage. But the components that can take damage are basically just the hull, the balloon, and the engines. And the guns can be damaged as well, but obviously, while that's bad when your guns are damaged, the ship's not necessarily going to die if your guns are damaged. But so there's just the engines, which usually most ships have multiple engines. Then there's the one hull control and there's one blimp control. And usually they're spaced fairly far apart on the ship, and it does make it a little more challenging for engineers. But the biggest problem I've seen with the Spire is that it has one of these components on 4 different decks. There are 4 different levels to it, and there is at least one of these components on each. I believe there's the blimp controls on the top deck. I think the second deck down, the first deck down is the hull, I believe. The third deck down from the top has one of the engines, and then the bottom deck has two of the other engines on it, I believe. The one thing that is cool about the Spire is that it has 4 guns on it. Obviously, it's got one on its right side, and then it's got one on its left side. It's got one that faces right, one that faces left, one that faces front, and those are the 3 on the left side of the screen. Those are the 3 regular weapon mounts. It then also has a heavy weapon mount, which is a forward-facing gun, and can be very, very effective. The problem with the Spire is that it's relatively slow, but it's got a very good turn rate. You can turn very quickly in it. So it's very easy to maneuver, but it's slower than some of the other ships. But overall, I've seen it do really well, because have been a lot of people using it. But I've seen it do really well, but I've also seen it do really bad. But that kind of goes for pretty much all the ships. I've seen sometimes where it's probably just the crews. A ship that has a better crew is obviously going to do better regardless of what ship you have. But like I said before, the game seems really balanced, and there isn't really much of a it's not a clear winner as like what the best ship is. It's really about number one, it's about your play style. Like, you have the Pyramidium, which is designed to, well, in my opinion, designed to be close range because it's designed to be ramming. You've got the Galleon, which is versatile. It can be close range, long range. Then you've got the Squid, which is a very fast and nimble ship. And then you've got the Junker, which is a very good fire base, a very good support ship. It can have a ton of different weapons on it. So if you don't want to just put a bunch of the same weapons on it, you can have a wide variety on it because it's got so many weapon slots, and you can really kind of have it as a jack of all trade. Where you can kind of fill in the gaps where your team's other ships are more specialized. The Junker can be more versatile. The Goldfish is it's a pretty versatile ship too. You can have the heavy weapon slots. There's different weapons. I'm not really going to say that much because that's going to be for next video, is going to get into the weapons. But and then there's 6 different ships. They've all got different balloon strengths, or a bunch of them have the same balloon strength. Actually, let me go through here. Yeah, actually, it looks like they all have the same balloon strength, but they have different hull strength. They have different ship health, which I think is just like their overall, like the engines and stuff, the different components. So it's really just about preference, play style, and practice, really. And that alliteration wasn't actually intentional. But anyway, so I'm going to end this video here. It's running pretty long. So anyway, like the video, subscribe for more, and see you next time. Another Guns of Icarus video coming out soon with the guns.
I feel pretty retarded right now, that's why.